Okay, we're back again, and this time we are trying a slightly different green screen background. I don't know how well it's going to work. It might need a bit of tweaking, but it now says change my mind instead of simply debate. And it now also says we have to cause total extinction because it's wrong to allow anyone to have a bad life. Yeah, maybe I need to tweak it a bit, but let's try it out, it's possible that changing the background will have some sort of effect. I'm also trying out some more TikTok account building sort of methods and strategies. That's going to be a big thing. Following others, you can follow like hundreds of people a day on TikTok, and a lot of them will follow you back. So it's an extremely easy way to grow your channel. You can actually follow 10,000 people at max, and you're going to get a lot of follows back from that, statistically speaking. Okay, let's see if we can invite people to watch. Let's have a look. Ooh, okay, lots of people online, and yeah, I can just slap the invite button on all of these people. Let's try it. Okay, let's see how many people we can get in the stream. All right, it's kind of blowing up. 2 people already. Wow. Yeah. So let's try and get some debates going. Oh, hello. Hello. How's it going? Yeah. Maybe I accidentally invited you as a as a guest there instead of just to watch. Thanks for liking the stream, though. All right. I think we have to go back into like debate mode. That's the best way to get viewers on, because it's not really working. Okay, let the viewers roll in. They're coming, I can feel it. Infinite views are coming my way. Maybe I should get some better lighting. Okay, is this lighting better? I think it is. Okay, thank you for joining us, everyone. This is a stream for the pro-extinction movement. It's a social justice movement. It's grassroots. What we're doing is working to end and abolish forced existence and extreme suffering. Now, that means, the only actual real way to do that is with total extinction. It is the only way to guarantee that there's no more reproduction and no more suffering. And it is the right thing to do, the necessary thing to do for the victims. Hello.
Oh, it's you. Hello.
How's it going?
Yeah, it's well.
Any opinions?
Any opinions? Well, we had a talk last time about a semantical thesis that you couldn't answer. So today I wanted to see if your schema's in check and see if, your brain can actually work well. Let us check that. So let us start. Okay. So what's going to be the argument that, forced existence is going to be morally wrong?
Yeah, any suffering is bad, and we have to prevent it, right?
We have to prevent it. What's the argument that we have to prevent suffering?
If you want to be a good person, then you should help others, right? And the thing is, you should also try to be on the right side of the world, right? If you're being asked to vote for a party or something, you want to be on the right side of it. So to be on the right side of things, to be a good person, is to support extinction and the end of forced existence and extreme suffering. The ones that suffer the most in this world will benefit the most as well from extinction.
Yeah, okay. Let us start off with this. All right. What do you define as a good person under your semantical thesis? Go ahead.
It's hard to say, really, isn't it? But let's just say someone that wants to do good, right?
Wants to do good. Okay. Is this want it needed to be committed in any sort of way, or does it just need to be thought of in some sort of abstract way?
I don't know if it's something that you choose, right? I think for a lot of good people, it's just the way they are, right? They have empathy, they have compassion, and that leads them to try to do good things, right?
Do you think that, wait, you think that these things aren't choices? You think that phenomenal brain states are not choices?
Yeah, I mean, most things are not choices, right?
Most things?
Yeah,
That's an absolute, well, that's not an absolute school.
I mean, we live in a deterministic world. Every choice you make is a result of your brain chemistry, your environment, your upbringing. I can't choose to jump out of a window, right?
Wait,
Uh,
yes, you can. Whoa, what's the argument that you can't choose to jump out of a window right now? I have a window right beside me. I could jump out of it at any given moment right now.
right, but you
Wh-
don't
But I
because
don't.
that's
Why?
against, yeah, because you're deterministically not going to do that.
Wait, determinalist. So you're telling me if I jump out the window right now, then I was deterministically going to jump out that window?
Yeah,
What's going to be the argument for that? That I was determined to jump through that window?
I mean, it's obvious though, right? I mean, this is a stupid argument to begin with, an irrelevant argument.
It kind of
Um,
is. It ties into your argument about a total extinction, prior brain.
Not really, dude. Babies being tortured to death have no choice in the matter, right? So you're just talking nonsense, absolute gibberish, garbage, nonsense, rubbish, trash, maybe. What does having choices in life have to do with babies being tortured, right? And no, you don't choose to be a good person. I can't choose to be a bad person, okay? It's not a realistic thing. Like, you don't understand how the world works or how the psychology works if you think that everyone is making choices constantly throughout their life. No, you're kind of pressured and pushed into doing things. And yeah, it's just insane. It's this myth, the same myth that every mind has perfect rationality, that every decision is backed by perfect rationality and decision making, that you can choose not to suffer. It's a form of insanity to think these kind of things. And that's not even an exaggeration. It is, having done the research and, education myself on it, I can tell you it's a fact. Hello, how's it going? Privet, comrade. Or Croatia, maybe? Where are you from? Well, thanks for joining as a guest. Canada, yeah. I accidentally invited you to join as a guest to speak. I meant to invite you to just watch. So thanks for coming and watching. If you do want to come up and talk, you can request to do so. But yeah, it's a myth that anyone has choices in this life. If there's two things in the fridge, and I hate one of them, I'm not going to choose to have the thing I hate. So it's very easy to understand that free will is a myth, and we simply do what we're programmed to do. Bonjour. So, can anyone change my mind that we should cause total extinction because it's wrong to allow anyone to have a bad life, including animals, by the way. So we should have total animal extinction and extinction for all life. Life is not a blessing, it's a curse for the majority. And even if there was just one victim suffering, it would still be bad and wrong and unacceptable. Hello, how's it going?
Good, good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
But honestly, though, I feel like this is a kind of a very weird way of thinking, though. What
Yeah,
is
it's
saying?
definitely unusual compared to most people, right?
Yeah, for sure. Because total extinction, that doesn't make any sense. Life. What is life? I mean, what is anything without life?
Safety, bliss.
There's no safety without life. What do you mean?
Well, there is, because what do we want to be safe from? We want to be safe from suffering, from pain, right? So that's what safety is about, okay? So you have the ultimate safety within non-existence, right? It's an extremely safe state. It's the
Okay,
safest you can be.
but you can also have safety within life too, right?
Well, no,
Why don't you work toward that?
because that's not realistic, right? It's not fair,
Also,
realistic. Okay, because y- if I have a child right now, I can't guarantee it's not going to have a terrible life. But if I
absolutely
don't
not. But
have
you
it,
can try your best, right? You can try your best to
but
give them support.
but when it goes wrong, right? The victims suffer terribly and unacceptably so.
Hold on a second. So are you saying that you're trying your best to make life better, right? You saying that that's worse than going with total extinction? That's your
Yes,
best approach?
that's correct. The thing is, reducing suffering instead
That's
of
not
ending
reducing
it.
suffering, though. That's not reducing suffering. Extinction is not reducing suffering at all. That doesn't make any sense.
But you think there
Trying
will
your
be
best.
more suffering if there's no life to suffer?
No, that's not reducing. Though. You taking life away. That's not reducing at all. Can you reduce something when there's no life?
Well, if you reduce life, then you've reduced life, right? I
Okay,
mean,
how
you're
about
not
this?
making any sense. It's very possible to reduce things, right?
Yeah, but when there's no life, there's nothing to reduce. That's what I'm saying. You don't not reducing anything. But if you live in life, right, you try your best to make life better. That's reducing
Well,
suffering.
let me ask you this. If there's no life, then there's no one going to be having a bad time. There's no children being tortured to death, right? So that's a good thing.
I know, but if you try your best to fight for that too, right, there will be no kids being tortured. I mean, I know it's not gonna be, there will be bad things, but life is not just about suffering too. That's the thing.
Well, for the lucky ones, it's not just about suffering because they don't have to suffer, right? But for the unlucky ones, it's all about suffering and being tortured. It's terrible.
Yeah, that's true, but
The vast majority of life born onto this planet has a terrible life and are actually, statistically speaking, eaten alive as children, if you include animals, right? So the vast majority of life is having a terrible time. They're being forced into extreme suffering and a life of pure agony and torture that they never asked for, okay? And it's only the lucky ones that benefit from being forced to exist, right? So it's a paradigm of lucky ones with privilege and others, the other side are being tortured while the privileged ones at the top are saying, oh, it's not that bad, right? Even though they've never experienced that suffering and they're happy to condemn others to the suffering that that they haven't even experienced. It's amazing. It's shockingly wrong and immoral. Not even one baby should be tortured, right? There's nothing that can justify that. There's no great meaning in life of watching Netflix and having pizza that justifies a baby being tortured so that you can have that shallow, fleeting pleasure.
yeah, no. But the thing is that though, also people suffer just from the natural laws, right? Just from like the natural laws of nature, like
Right, but the thing is,
suffering is natural.
that doesn't mean we should just accept it. If something's due to nature, that doesn't make it unquestionable, right?
Yeah, but the thing is that if your only option is extinction, then what else? That's the only, and there's nothing we can do just to question it. That's it. We cannot end suffering because that's part of our nature. That's part of who we are.
Well, no, I mean,
And I know you
that would
say
be
extinction, that
animals.
will.
Right?
Hmm?
I mean, we're not animals. We can do the right thing. We can be better than animals,
We're
right?
not animals?
I'm saying that we can be better than most animals, right?
Yeah, of course. But what do you mean by we're not animal? But we still
Well,
have animal instinct, though.
it's just life. We're animals, and so we can't change the system. Well, that's wrong. I mean,
No,
we
that's not what
already
I said.
control.
No, I feel like when you say go extinction, that's not changing the system. That's destroying the system.
Okay, and
Okay, yeah, so let me ask. Okay, do you think it's even possible to extinct life completely?
yeah, I do.
How?
Well, science, technology, right? We already control animal populations on the planet with extreme control. we've already made several species go extinct, and that's without even trying. Okay, so controlling the planet, controlling our environment, and especially controlling animal populations is something that we as a species have done since the very beginning. So it's not a new thing or a new concept by any means.
Yeah, and we did it for a reason, right? Survival.
Yeah, so not a good reason, basically, a selfish reason.
Yeah, but that's what life is, survival. Like,
Yeah, it's not, that's a bad thing though, right? It's
yeah.
it's
You
it's
know
a
what? No,
cruel
the reason why I
system.
ask, the reason why I ask if it's even possible, because what if we go extinct and then life also start emerging again, all the way to a
Yeah,
point where
so,
big humans
yeah,
comes
no,
into it.
we've already thought about that. You know, this isn't some new idea. This is a
Really?
movement that's existed for years. There's some very smart people working in this movement, and yeah, obviously they've already thought about that. Prevention of life developing is the biggest part of our mission at the pro-extinction movement. So we've definitely thought about that.
And did you guys accomplish it? Is it possible?
Yeah, we're working to make it possible.
I think it's impossible actually.
Well, nothing's
Because
impossible.
actually, yeah, can you fly? Can you grow our wings right now and fly? I feel like at that same level, it's
On
physically
a plane,
impossible.
I can get on a plane and fly. I could put on a
That's not what I
jetpack
meant.
and fly.
That's not what I meant. The exact same way you cannot physically fly is I also feel like you cannot physically
But we're not talking about
extinct
magic,
fly.
right? You're talking about magic, like growing wings magically, okay? We're not talking about magic. Extinction is something very practical and realistic. It doesn't require magic. Like I said, we've already made several animal species go extinct.
Yeah,
We already control animal
yeah, but
populations
that's not what I'm saying though.
to an incredible extent.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying is that even if you make extinction possible, that does not mean life will be extinct because we don't even know how life emerged. You know what I'm saying, right? We don't even understand the full explanation of what life is.
But the thing is, the mistake you're making is that you're thinking of what we know today and you're treating that as the limit and it's never going to grow or we'll never find anything else out, right? But, you know, we're actually just at the beginning of humanity's journey with technology and science, the beginning of it. You know, 1,000 years from now, science, technology, the world will be completely different. Things will be much easier. And I would say that every single day going forward, we get closer to making extinction possible, right? 1,000 years ago, I would have agreed with you, it's a crazy idea. But now it's already a very possible idea, and it gets much more possible every single day going forward.
So instead of taking the path of using technology to end suffering by reducing it, but nah, I'm gonna just go with extinction. Because that's the way. I think it's gonna be impossible because the reason why I feel like life will always emerge back again. So you right now, I think the best option for you right now is how about you go extinct because there's no suffering if you don't have a perception, right? How about that?
Well, that's a gross, disgusting, and hideous thing to say, really.
Hold on a second. What?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're basically, you can't argue against what I'm saying, so you're telling me to unalive myself. Do better, guys. That's really gross. Hello, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I came up a few weeks ago. I don't know if you remember me. But basically, I do see where you're coming from with this movement. And there are probably like some things that we agree upon. But I have like a couple of main issues that I guess would make me hesitant to join, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The first is, while trying to make humans extinct and stuff, that it would cause a lot of suffering, and if it isn't successful, then ultimately you've kind of contributed to more, if that makes sense. What's your views on that?
I would say that any suffering caused by our attempts to achieve extinction are going to be a drop in the ocean. Like literally a drop, one droplet in an entire ocean, right? There's billions of years of suffering on the line for countless victims, right? So even if humanity suffered, let's say every human has to get tortured for an entire year, right? Let's make it worse than what you're even suggesting. Even if every human had to get tortured for 100 years to cause extinction, it would still be better than the alternative.
I do get where you're coming from, but like that line of thinking, and I know that's not probably how it would work, but isn't like, I feel like it's not going to resonate with people, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think anyone, not anyone, but I think most people wouldn't want to cause suffering like intentionally to other humans. You know what I mean? Like, even if it's possible, it could be
like a police officer tackling a criminal, right? If the police had this same pacifism that you're suggesting,
Yeah.
then criminals would run the world. And they kind of do, right?
Yeah. But like ordinary humans aren't criminals though. Well, some of them are, but a lot of them are just like regular people, you know?
Yeah, so it's a good point. And that is the greatest obstacle for our movement. It is the resistance of the majority of the population, right? So
Yeah.
we fully understand that that is by far the greatest obstacle and challenge. And that is what our movement is working to solve, basically, that
No,
big
I get
problem.
that. Also, like, I think you mentioned before, and it's something that I agree with, that like being born into the world is like a consent violation. Obviously,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you don't consent to, being alive, to suffer, stuff like that. Which I agree with. I guess my issue would be like forcing humans to become extinct would also be kind of a form of a consent violation. And I know that it's
Yeah,
not very
but
good.
again, the police can violate the consent of criminals all the time. So consent isn't some unbreakable thing. It doesn't have infinite value or infinite importance. Consent is really just a defense, almost, good in a good way. But the thing is, if that same consent is going to be the thing that's causing insane amounts of suffering and cruelty, then it's not going to take priority.
No, I get it. I get it if you've like, if you're a criminal or like you've caused suffering on other people, I get like that your consent might have to be violated and stuff. Like, I completely respect that. But I'm talking about, kids and people who haven't really done much harm in the world, like forcing, I guess that's my issue with it, like forcing them to die.
But you
quite
see, I get what you're saying, but the thing is that freedom is actually a bad thing, right? Freedom allows suffering. Freedom allows, anyone, right? Everyone has freedom right now. The
Yeah.
worst sadists in the world can go and kidnap a child, lock them in a dungeon and torture them, right? They have the freedom to do that. The police might open an investigation or something, but it doesn't ultimately prevent that child from being kidnapped and tortured, right? So
Yeah.
freedom is it's not a good thing, especially when it allows for extreme victimization and suffering. So the victims and the sufferers and the potential victims and sufferers, they're more important. Their safety is more important than the fun of the privileged, basically.
No, I get that. I think from my perspective, like if it would be possible to do it in a way that was, in a way that didn't cause a lot of suffering to other people. I mean, it's difficult because like people are here now, you know what I mean? Like they might not have been here by consent or choice.
Yeah,
But
but
now
the thing is, you're not thinking about all the victims.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get
You're
the
not
future
thinking about,
suffering.
you're not thinking about all of the stakeholders.
What do you mean?
So a stakeholder is any party that has a stake in what's going on, right? So in terms of extinctionism, everyone is a stakeholder. You have people that are against it, they have a stake in it. You have people that are for it, they have a stake in it. And essentially every future life form on Earth is a stakeholder in extinctionism, whether they're for it or against it, they benefit from it or not benefit from it. Everyone is affected, right?
Yeah.
And therefore everyone has some sort of stake. So you're only talking about a small minority of stakeholders, and in particular, you're talking about the privileged ones, the lucky ones, and also the selfish ones, who say that my privilege is more important than a child being safe from being tortured.
I agree that a lot of people are selfish in the world. Like that, like you mentioned, if you do suffer in this world, I think that you don't. You're in a bad position, basically. Like you're in a really terrible position. So I do get where you're coming from with that. But like, what if the do people in your movement, like, do you work with people who like suffer quite immensely? You know what I mean? Like, do you get their input? Do you have like people in your movement who, talk about that kind of stuff? Or is it just more
No, I mean,
research?
people ask similar questions like, which philosophers do you follow to sort of get your understanding from? But no, we don't need any more proof, really, or reason to fight for what's right. We know that the majority of life is getting tortured. We know that, even one child being tortured is unacceptable, right? We have a zero tolerance policy on victimization, exploitation, and suffering, forced existence. These are all bad things, and they're in fact the worst things in the world. We have a zero tolerance policy on them, and people that are against extinction are happy to condemn others to a life of extreme suffering and torture, right? We're saying that's not acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, like a child being tortured and stuff is like one child, for example, is unacceptable. But at the same time, like, it's quite a drastic approach that, like, if one child suffers, to like wipe out the entire planet.
Well, the thing is that we would still fight for that child and their safety over the privilege and shallow pleasures like brain rotting and watching Netflix, right, of selfish people who are happy to exploit others, right? So even people like ourselves, empathetic people, we wouldn't be able to enjoy, mindless pleasures while knowing that babies are being tortured for our sake, right? That would ruin the enjoyment. But selfish people, they're happy for that to happen, right? So these people are irresponsible. They're chasing shallow pleasures, fleeting pleasures, and they're willing to do it at the expense of children being tortured to death.
Yeah, I definitely think that like a lot of people don't think about those kind of things or really
I
consider
couldn't agree
them.
more. It's out of sight, out of mind, which is actually one of the worst things in the world. The whole out of sight, out of mind thing is a way of avoiding moral obligation and allowing others to suffer. So it's an extremely bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think people just don't want to, because it doesn't affect them. They're like, they might see it or read about it, but they just kind of turn a blind eye to it. I definitely agree with that. I mean, I do respect where you're coming from. I think the issue for me again is like, if it could be done in like a completely painless way where people wouldn't even like remember it and stuff, it wouldn't cause a lot of pain and there would just be no more existence, I'd definitely be more open to it.
Yeah,
Like you mentioned.
I get that, and that's understandable. But the thing is, if we were to adopt that position, then we would be compromised, right? We would be saying that we won't do everything for the victims. So, for example, some people say that we should have majority support. We should have 51% democratic support from the entire world population before we proceed with extinction. But the thing is, if that takes 10,000 years to achieve and you could have stopped suffering much sooner than that, then you're just unnecessarily condemning everyone else to suffer for the sake, again, of the privileged and selfish people who are, not willing to do the right thing and are, condemning others to suffer. Now, I'm not saying that selfish people don't deserve moral consideration, but I am saying that, they are supporting a system of exploitation and taking advantage of others and condemning others to extreme suffering for their benefit. It's not an acceptable system.
I get that. What do you think is like the most realistic way to do it then? Like, do you think that it will be possible like far in the future? Do you think it will be possible kind of like within the next couple 100 years? Like, what would you say is like the most likely?
That's an interesting question. Well, I mean, there's sort of two ways it could go. Maybe we can change the world, change humanity with eugenics or something. That is something we're already working on, actually. Getting more empathetic genes out into the population, because people are very selfish at the minute. That's a big part of the problem. But ultimately, it's hard to say. That's got to be my answer. It's hard to say because 5 years from now, the world will probably be very different, right? 10 years from now, it's going to be completely. 100 years from now, we won't recognize it at all. Nothing we know and think and feel now is going to be relevant 100 years from now. The world will be an insanely different place. So what I can tell you though is that extinctionists and people in the movement are extremely motivated. So that is one of our biggest assets, and because we have effectively countless victims relying on us. Every single life form that would benefit from not being forced into a life of torture and a cruel death, they are relying on us, right? Every future victim of torture is relying on us. So we have a lot of responsibility in that sense and an incredible amount of motivation. Most people are motivated by what pizza they're going to order tonight, what color car to buy, right? We're motivated by an insane number of children that are going to be tortured to death, relying on us to get the job done and to protect them. So that is going to be one of our biggest assets. It means that we're not going to give up, we're not going to be lazy, we're going to do everything we can. Now, it's possible that somehow we'll fail or that we won't be successful, but we're going to try, right? And as empathetic people who are aware of all the suffering in the world and how bad it is, we can't just ignore it and be lazy about it. And the thing is, those that suffer the worst in this world, those that are truly the worst off. Now, it takes a bit of imagination to try and understand, how bad life is at the true worst end of it, right? It's really extremely bad, right? Those are the ones that kind of drive us the most, right? Because they're suffering the worst. So they need it the most. Now, we want to help everyone and provide safety to all life. But, we're always going to have that extreme empathy for those that are being tortured in the extreme as well. And there is genuinely no way to help them except for extinction. Whereas everyone else is saying that it's acceptable for them to be forced to exist and to suffer. We're saying, no, we should stop that as fast as possible.
Yeah, I definitely agree with some of that because I work in I work with delivering training and stuff and working with people who have lost loved ones due to them unaliving basically. So that's the kind of work I'm involved in. So I do see firsthand the suffering that this life can cause. So I think that's where kind of my motivation comes from. But basically, with the eugenics side of things, do you feel like the risk of that would be that you're kind of engineering people to maybe unintentionally though to support the movement? Do you see where I'm coming from? If you have eugenics where you manufacture certain genes, you know what I mean? You might be creating people that are influenced to think a certain way.
And that's the whole point, right? The thing is, we're against antinatalism because that essentially is opting out of the system. It's taking away from the resistance essentially. So extinctionists are pro reproduction. I mean, we think it's a bad thing, but we think it's a necessary thing. We do believe that there's a big genetic component to empathy, and that most of the world is animalistically selfish and too selfish to try and think about what the right thing is and to be responsible. Which is why the world is run by dictators. It's why the world is run by pathetic political parties that are constantly getting into scandals.
I get that. I think I would like for more people to be empathetic, like more humans to be empathetic. But like my worry would be like if you're advocating for like eugenics to have people have more of these certain types of genes, then it's like you're kind of like maybe like biased a little bit, you know what I mean? Like you're hoping that they will support the movement because you've pushed for them to be engineered a certain way. And instead of like, well, I guess they'd still have the kind of ability to think and stuff like that, but I just worry about creating some kind of, do you get where I'm coming from with that? Like eugenics, like there's some dangers, possible
Sounds
dangers.
like you think it's a threat to free will, almost.
Well, I don't believe that we have like full free will. I think that a lot of it is the way we've been conditioned. How we've been brought up. Like, I don't think that we can just make any choice we want. But I think eugenics, I guess, could go a bit too far in potentially. Like, but would you ever support like eugenics?
Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of something we're already doing. Steve, who created the movement, he's even more motivated than I am. And one thing that he's doing is donating sperm regularly. And basically he says, look, would you rather have another narcissistic child or a child that has, a much greater chance of inheriting rationality and empathy, right? So eugenics I don't know much about the history of eugenics, but I've never really understood why it's a bad thing. Sure, it's a bad thing if it's used for nefarious purposes. But I don't see why it can't be used for good.
Well, I think it would be used for good, like if you were to take out like certain genes that would lead to like disease or like certain illnesses, those linked, those kind of things, because I feel like that would reduce the suffering in the world, if that makes sense. Like if you could take out, I don't know, I don't really know enough about it either, but like I've heard about it before where you can, take out certain things around, having diseases or certain conditions that impact people's quality of life. I could definitely see the argument for that. I mean, I don't know why that's completely banned, to be honest. Like, I feel like that should be allowed. At least an option. Like, but when you start, I guess, going into like, because empathy, it's like, do you feel like you're just born with empathy, or
it's biological? So let me explain. Animals are genetically made by nature and evolution and survival of the fittest, to be selfish, to be cruel, to have no problem attacking other animals and eating them alive. And we have the same, effectively, mental defect. Now, in the current context, I would say it is a mental defect. However, that same extreme selfishness and prioritization of ourselves and reproduction, it's animalistic. And I think that it wasn't a defect when it was necessary for survival of the fittest, right? Animals had to be selfish. A lion wouldn't have survived very long if it felt guilty every time it ate another animal, okay? But now it is a problem. It helped us survive through the cruelty of nature, but at the expense of others. But now it's actually just a defect, and it's effectively we haven't evolved out of it. So the thing about empathy and the genetics for empathy, empathy isn't. It's not like a bias. It's more about a natural understanding of the world. So it's more like a normal way of thinking and understanding the world. The thing is, I'll give you an example. Um, you know, when most people try to think of the worst suffering in the world, they find it very difficult to try and picture. And most people that I debate on my streams, the worst suffering they can imagine is stubbing their toe. Okay, so that's part of limited empathy, and again, it was advantageous for survival of the fittest. But now we've still got that effective disability, and so yeah, people ignore the worst off. They don't think about them, and if they did truly have enough empathy to understand how bad suffering is, I would say that it would be much easier for them to realize that it's unacceptable and it should be our priority.
Do you think that people like who choose to have kids and stuff like empathy because they're kind of like bringing someone into the world where they know like it's very possible that they would suffer or that there's a lot of suffering in it?
That's a good question. So I'd lean towards yes. Yeah. Most people have like a small circle of empathy. You know, they empathize with their family, and they also have optimism bias as well. So they assume that their child's going to have a good life. They assume everything's going to be fine, that nothing's going to go that badly. But then it does, right? Then they end up having a disabled child with cancer and chronic pain and all sorts of terrible things. And who's the victim here? It's the child who's been forced to exist and just be tortured until they die, basically.
No, I agree. I agree with that 100%. Like,
Yeah, it's an animalistic thing. The reason why people just mindlessly have kids, it's because we have animalistic minds, animalistic brains. You know, we are animals, right? So we don't have full cognitive faculties, essentially. And one of the biggest parts of that is the suppression or lack of empathy.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I mean, I don't want kids because basically all I mentioned, there's a lot of suffering in the world. I don't want them to have the possibility that they may suffer. But I feel like that's maybe why the world isn't as empathetic. It's that the people who maybe realize that bringing someone into the world where it's likely that they will suffer in their life or experience some kind of suffering, potentially a high amount, understand that and so don't want to bring someone into the world. Whereas people who maybe don't think about it as much, maybe don't really care, maybe it's to benefit themselves, whatever, they're more likely to have kids. So do you see where I'm coming from with that? Like, whereby people who don't think about the potential like suffering, they think that, their kids might suffer, but it's still worth it, like it's still, the benefits kind of outweigh any potential negatives. But if you have the opposite kind of thinking where you're more concerned with suffering, then surely you wouldn't choose to have kids because you don't want to contribute to it, right?
Yeah, I became an antinatalist a few years ago, but through the movement, I came to understand that actually antinatalism is bad at the minute. In our current context, it's unhelpful. So,
what is it? What is that?
So there's a couple of reasons why antinatalism is bad.
No. Like, what is antinatalism?
Right. Antinatalism is it's like a position or ideology of not having kids.
Okay. So why is that bad then?
Yeah, it seems at first like it would be a good thing, but once you understand the full context, it is actually a bad thing. So, if all humans went extinct, then we wouldn't be able to cause animal extinction, and that would mean that animals would continue to suffer for millions or billions of years. So it'd be unfair, right? That would be prioritizing human extinction over animal extinction, which is like discrimination, basically. They can't help themselves, but we can help them. And so the thing is, it might take hundreds, thousands of years to achieve animal extinction on Earth, and especially within the context of there not being many empathetic people, we may need to, as extinctionists, reproduce in order to keep the genetics out there. Antinatalists are opting out of the system and leaving the world to horny sadists and religious zealots, basically. So in that sense, it's actually quite counterproductive.
You're saying like in the wider context, in like the grander scheme of things, like it's harmful, I guess, to the movement and to that kind of stuff. Yeah, I can respect that. I guess that's if the movement would be successful, though, like because I don't know. I just feel like
The thing is, you can't be sure if the movement's going to be successful, but you can fight for it to try and make it successful, right?
yeah, you can fight for it. Yeah, absolutely. I do think that you should be able to, but like, so do you think me not wanting kids is like a bad thing then?
I mean, not like I'm not going to judge you, right? In the same way that we don't believe in free will, right? If someone just says, "I'm not going to have kids, I really don't want it, and I'm never going to change my mind on it," then I'm not going to waste my time arguing against them and to try and convince someone that doesn't want to have kids to have kids. So no one chooses their preferences. I would say it is truly down to your brain biology and your genetics. You might find out that you have a preference or find out that you like something more than the other thing. In the same way that, I don't like certain fruits, right? Or certain vegetables. It's a preference thing, right? But so no, we try not to judge people for their opinions, because again, it's a genetic thing, right? It would be like blaming someone for having a disability.
Yeah, no, I get that. What if like the leader of your movement like didn't want kids? Because surely like they'd be more likely to have kids like with similar genes to them.
Well, Steve is doing that already. Steve is donating sperm regularly. So he's probably going to have more kids than anyone else in the movement. And he's encouraging us to do the same. And I personally don't see a problem with it. Now, most people I tell this to, they freak out and think, "Oh, that sounds weird and wacky." But there is actual thinking and logic behind it.
No, I don't see a problem with it. But I guess my question would be like, in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to make like a massive difference. Like it might make a small difference, and I think that I understand why you'd want to do that, because you might have a lot of empathy and characteristics and stuff like that, but you know what I mean? Like unless everyone did that, then it would take a while.
Steve was the only person in the movement when he started it, and he's doing everything he can, right? So donating sperm, like you said, it might not change the entire world, but it could make a big difference. I mean, Steve, for example, is a very smart guy, and he's passionate and smart enough to have made this movement and to be leading it. So if he happens to have a dozen kids because he donated sperm, then that's actually a big difference that he's making, right? He's already technically changed the world in a small, for now it's a small way, by creating this movement. But that's one small thing that we're working on, and it is a good example of trying to do everything you can for extinction, basically.
So would you like to work with like scientists, like people in power and stuff like that, so that you can try to really get a hold on like the eugenics thing. Because I feel like that would be the best way to do it, right? To like get into positions of power to where you'd be able to influence how the law works in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing we're doing at the minute is trying to get new activists to join the movement and, to grow the movement, spread the message. But yes, we would love to take over the world. If someone said, do you want to rule the world today? I'd say, yeah, I'll do it. But it's going to be difficult to get there. The movement's only existed for about 3 years now. So it's still in its infancy. We have a big challenge ahead of us, and we are working on it, and in several different ways. So we're not just relying on eugenics or anything like that. That's just one thing that we're working on, along with other stuff.
Are you worried in any way that like it could go like really wrong? Like, is there any part of you that's like, as the movement increases, or say you did have like a higher position of power, like do you ever feel like anxiety about it, like whether what you're doing is right? Do you ever feel that way at all, or not really?
Yeah, I mean, we do feel some anxiety about it, and it's big decisions and things like that for sure. But ultimately, we are always guided by the knowledge that it's impossible to cause more suffering with extinction than it prevents. Animals, for example, wild animals, there's trillions and trillions and trillions of them. They outnumber us massively. They have the worst suffering, the worst conditions, no safety, no shelter, no medicine, and most of them are eaten alive. And that will continue for millions or billions of years. And I don't think extinction is going to take millions of years, right? But the suffering is going to be massive in comparison. And as I constantly say, if we had to torture every human on the planet for 1,000 years to achieve total extinction, it would still technically be better than the alternative.
Yeah, no, I understand from your perspective.
It's horrible, but we're in a horrible situation.
Yeah, but for me, it's like I would struggle. Say if that was the only way, it would be quite hard to, flip the switch on that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely. It's very difficult to do. But again, we're guided by knowing that it would be the right thing to do, and that, again, humans are a tiny minority of the population on this planet. So even just on that basis alone, you have to go with the greater good, the lesser of two evils. You have to prioritize the larger amount of suffering over the smaller amount of suffering. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, basically. It's not like a rhetoric, it's just a fact, right?
So I'm guessing that you don't believe in like any form of like life after death or like anything like that.
No, we're an atheistic movement, an organization. If someone gave us proof, then yeah, we'd look into it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God, but like some people think that like there can still be life after death, like independent from God, if that makes sense. I don't know if you've read of like near-death experiences and that kind of stuff. And again, this, in my opinion, like it's not completely convincing evidence. Just because obviously there are a lot of different factors that come into those stories, but I'm just saying it could be a possibility but I mean, that would be a completely new challenge, right? That's not something that you can really worry about.
Yeah, it would be very impractical to try and proceed on that basis. But I mean, the thing is, we don't think that really comes into it massively, because at the end of the day, if we have a child that's going to be, a baby that's going to be tortured to death, it just seems like definitely the best thing to prevent that. If a sadist is going to kidnap a woman off the street and have children with her in a dungeon and then assault those children as well, I don't think anyone would, be worried that it was a bad thing to stop that sadist from kidnapping that woman, right?
Yeah, 100%. So would you rather have complete like non-existence, like period, or would you rather have like some kind of like a heaven? It might be like independent of like religion or God, but some kind
Yes,
of bliss and pure
it's an
peace.
interesting question. It gets asked all the time, and yeah. So I mean, it's. I like to think of it as we're in hell right now, basically, and every new life coming here is being condemned to hell. Now, the lucky ones don't suffer too badly, but again, if you actually look into it, the majority of life born here is going through hell. So we want to save people from being sent to hell, basically. Extinction, it does do that. Now, in terms of heaven, it's funny because people keep saying, "Oh, I thought you were an atheist, but you're talking about these, hell and heaven." But I think that they are actually useful terms to use in reality, right? But so if we could create heaven, then I think that would be probably a good thing, because then you would have to choose between, people can have a great life and they're effectively in heaven with 100% safety. Literally zero risk of it going wrong, right? That would have to be the standard. So if there was literally no downside and no risk to it, and people were like, "Come on, we've created heaven. Let us go into it." Right? We know it's safe. That we know for a fact that it's safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Then yeah, we probably would support it. It's not something that we have put into our manifesto or anything, because again, in terms of being practical, it would be impractical for us to sort of say that we're including the creation of heaven in our plan. But the thing is that we are talking about a plan and a mission that will probably last thousands of years, especially because we want to do extinction for the rest of the universe. Now, we don't know how much of it we can reach, if we can go past our galaxy, but we want to do as much of it as we can. And so, yeah, humanity will potentially exist for thousands of more years. And if somehow we achieve omnipotence at some point and we can create heaven, then I don't see why we wouldn't. But we're not there yet, and if it is real, it's probably a long way away. And the victims who are suffering today, they need to be prevented from suffering, right?
Yeah, I mean, like if it was possible to like know 100%, like there'll be some kind of heaven or like peace after you pass. I feel like maybe that would attract a lot more people to the movement, because there would be like, a lot of people are suffering, and even though I selfishly want to exist, at least I know, and again, it's pretty selfish in a way as well, that there will be like peace or heaven for me after I die. I don't think even people will even care if it's for the people who are suffering, if that makes sense, even though it should be.
Yeah. But again, ultimately, it doesn't seem to be remotely practical or realistic, or in the future, in the distant future, even. I think most people would say that achieving omnipotence is probably in the far distance. Who knows? Maybe the singularity will do it, right?
Yeah, maybe.
But it's not. It would be impractical for us to kind of proceed on that basis, right? We have to assume that it's not coming anytime soon, and that we have to focus on traditional methods of reality and doing things.
Yeah, I mean, do you have like updates on your website about like the different things that you do? Like you talked about like the eugenics avenue that you're exploring and stuff. Like, do you like publish any sort of like updates around, how you're working on that? Because that's a particular area that I'm interested in, about how that could improve the world and benefit people and stuff like that.
It's not a massive thing that we do, really. So if you want to learn about eugenics and stuff, we're probably not the best place for it. We don't actually post updates on our website yet. The website's relatively new. I made it like a month ago or so. But we do have a Discord, and we do post updates in our Discord about what we're doing and protests that we're doing and things like that. So you're welcome to join the Discord. You're also welcome to check out the website, read more about us. The link to our Discord is on the website, or you can just Google search "Abolish Suffering Discord" and it will be the first link.
What's the website called? Because I couldn't see it on the...
Yeah, it's pro-extinction.
Right there, yeah. Proextinction.com. So that'll have the Discord link.
Yes.
And so you're able to see everything in there. Like, what have you guys got? Just like different resources and like to just share information, that kind of stuff.
We've got our manifesto on there with graphic explanations. We've got our FAQ. We have a basic FAQ, and then we have a much lengthier, more detailed FAQ, which also has a really, one of the most interesting things on the full FAQ is our debunking of antinatalism and also veganism. So according to our science and our research, and we show it all on the website, veganism actually causes more and worse suffering. So that's question 33 on our full FAQ, I think. And we've got data, graphs, and everything to explain it and to prove it all. So yeah, it's well worth the read. Check out the website.
I'll have a look at that. Yeah, I'll have a look at that. That sounds interesting. And are you guys are you do you advocate for like medically assisted like euthanasia and that kind of stuff, or do you not really care either way on that? Is that something that you talk about on that?
It's not something we talk about very much, but we do support it, generally speaking. The thing is that we try not to take positions on every last thing. If we had to take positions on everything, then we'd just spend all day doing it. People ask us, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And it's like, well, it's just not practical for us to have an insanely detailed answer to every question. I mean, maybe it would help, right? Maybe it would help our SEO on our website, and maybe it would be a good thing.
Because the reason I support it personally is because by not having it legal and stuff, you're basically forcing people to die in very inhumane, completely just terrible suffering. You know what I mean? With that not being an option, yeah.
When my grandmother passed away, she was 96 and she had extreme dementia. And I was with her almost every single day running up to her passing away. And I constantly thought, this is wrong, this is cruel, she shouldn't have to experience this. And she was just lying there, didn't know who she was, and she was just in extreme agony and suffering for a long time, weeks, months. And, there was effectively no one there to even know what was happening to them or who they were, right? So it was just a purely bad thing.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to hear that. It is terrible that those kind of things happen. But that's what I mean with getting people into positions of power or who have influence, who believe in that kind of stuff, advocating for peaceful dying and that kind of stuff. Then they'd be able to at least help for the time being. I feel like it would be a good thing to have, because I feel like a lot of people would probably agree with it, but for whatever reason, it's not being made into law,
Yeah, it's crazy, really. But again, I would personally say that it is due to that animalistic mentality or brain that we have and the lack of empathy. Generally speaking, we prioritize the lucky ones over the unlucky. So we prioritize the emotions of those who are against euthanasia and support assisted whatever, over the victims who are suffering and need it, right?
Yeah, I think it's people who are privileged who can't either comprehend or empathize with why somebody would suffer so much that that they deserve to have that as an option,
Part of it is that that the animal brain, it just values life so highly, right?
Hmm.
And think of it this way: animals don't think, right? At least they don't think in words, and they don't like do philosophy or anything. So, what did animals need if they're not able to think properly? They needed to just value life and existence and survival at all costs. So, glorify life, basically, and to be terribly afraid of death and non-existence and extinction, basically. Extinction is the most opposite thing possible to propagation of a species and reproduction, right? Which is what nature is all about. So yeah, extinctionism is as opposite as possible to what people like to think about and their comfort.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, a lot of the people that I've worked with, like, they talk about how, the survival instinct of having to fight against that to, take your own life, basically, and that people think, oh, it's like an easy thing when it causes a massive amount of suffering.
Yeah, I love talking about this because the number of people that come on my stream and say that everyone suffering can just opt out. It's like literally the craziest thing they could possibly say.
Yeah, it's very privileged. Yeah. No, 100% agree with that. People just think, oh, it's that simple, it's that black and white. But it's incredibly more complex than that. But again, I think that it's, like you mentioned, people not being able to understand, maybe they haven't had that experience, they haven't had that experience with someone close to them, whatever it is, it ultimately just leads to more suffering, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I appreciate the conversation. I'll have a look at the Discord. I'll join it and I'll see what's out there. But one thing I'm really interested in, like I mentioned, is the peaceful dying and the eugenics. I don't know how much work you guys do on that, but maybe you could include that in the future or like think about it. But
Yeah.
those are areas I'm interested in. All right, appreciate the conversation.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Okay, we have time for one more, and we have a guest that's been waiting for a while, so let's bring him on. Bear with me. Have they left? Is the queue lying to me? The queue can lie to me sometimes. Oh, no. I'm telling the truth. Hello.
We have to change my mind. We have to cause total extinction because it is wrong to allow anyone to have a bad life.
Correct.
So I mean, in your manifesto, right?
Yes.
Wait, hello. Wait, hello.
Yeah? Yeah.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yes.
Wait, can you hear me? All right. So in your manifesto, like, what do you think like the most important part of your manifesto is?
I don't know. I didn't write it.
So you want the whole world to be extinct, right? You want the
Yeah.
whole world to be extinct.
Yeah.
And in this manifesto, you can't think of one very important thing.
Well, you see, that's just not really the way I tend to think. That's not how my mind thinks. I wouldn't jump to the most important
Yes.
thing in it. I don't know why.
Okay, the reason why I'm saying this, right, is because you want the whole world to be like, oh yeah, like this is a good idea, right?
I mean, ideally, yeah, but we realize that's
I mean, yeah,
challenging.
right.
Yeah, why not?
And you have to, the whole world thinks like pretty much like they think different, There's people who are like, yo, this or that, this. You know. So I mean, there's people saying this in chat, right? And I mean no disrespect by this. I actually don't mean. They're
Bring it on.
saying you should start with yourself and make it like a big thing, like oh yeah, like this world, this and that. I don't know, you know, like how you would do it to make it like
Yes,
a big
Landon.
thing, you know.
Well, the thing is that we're against self-harm. Um, Basically, it's actually counter to our movements. It's completely unhelpful and counterproductive.
But it would make your thing way bigger, right?
Would it though?
It would
Would
push it
it?
out to the masses.
Would
It
it though?
would,
Would it though?
cause cause this it would never be seen before, you know.
What would? What wouldn't? People do that all the time.
Like no, like for their points, like oh yeah, like the whole world needs to go extinct, you know. It would
Right,
put it in their
but
minds.
I don't think we would attract very good attention doing that.
I mean, how are you gonna like? All right, tell me this. How are you gonna get even like a person to agree with this?
Well, many already have. I didn't make this movement. I'm just a part of it.
All right, tell me one person who has officially euthanized themselves.
But we're not calling for that.
What are you calling for?
You're just making assumptions, right?
Like you're saying total extinction. How else would how like what do you mean by oh yeah we make like a comment or something like I don't know we spawn in a comment the whole world goes to shit like is that what you want or what?
No. Think about it, right? To achieve complete and total animal extinction and extinction of other life and all life, it's not an easy task, right? You need a serious organization that's going to work on this and solve this problem, basically. An organization that grows, gets more powerful, develops, right? That's what we are doing. Organized activism is the only way it's going to realistically work.
So like one by one you want to like euthanize pigs, euthanize chickens, euthanize like all the different types of animals. My bad.
Yeah, we would euthanize every animal on the planet so that they are no longer able to reproduce and put new beings into suffering.
How much does one euthanasia shot cost? Do you know?
I don't know. But the cost of a
Okay,
euthanasia
so
shot,
if there was
right? If we were to control the world, for
so
example, then we wouldn't be dealing with the cost of a euthanasia shot, right? We would have the means and production to do whatever
okay,
we
so
wanted.
so now first is this. Now you want to control the world. What if one day you guys just go rogue, and you start like this organization to like no no no. Ever think about that?
We have uh, structures in place in our organization, and the thing is, only like genuinely responsible and ethical and smart people are going to join the movement, right?
I mean,
And that
yeah,
is,
but all right, go on. I mean, sorry.
but yeah, I don't have much time, so I am going to kick you, and I apologize for it because Lando has been desperate to come on. I will be streaming tomorrow if you want to join again. I just want to, I do need to end soon quickly. To end soon is all. Hello, Lando. How's it going?
How are you doing, James?
I'm good.
Are you from the UK or are you from Australia, my friend?
UK.
Nice, nice. Um, I agree with you. I do. I do. It's equal parts unfortunate as it is revealing that this may be the only option. But I agree with you. There's only but so much we can and have already done. There's only but so much love that I can see you have, and that I know I have, and that I know we all have before hate eventually enters the equation. I've, in the 19 years that I spent on this planet, learned religion, seen it, learned politics, seen it, learned what it is to be black, white, Asian, Hispanic, and then seen it. And out of all of it, I still feel like we are all clusterly fucked. Like, seriously, I think a cosmic reset would not only do us justice, but it would help us severely.
But a reset, that you're talking about just starting again and having life start again, right? It's still going to suffer terribly, right?
When I say reset in the sense of there would be an extinction, I mean that if there were ever to be another human race, if there were ever to be another life form on this planet, maybe they would have a better shot without the rest of us.
But the thing is, humans are bad and evil because of nature, and they had to be bad and evil in order to survive, right? Again, lions wouldn't have lived very long if they felt guilty every time they ate a zebra. Okay, so we have the same reverse empathy. Basically, we have sadism, effectively. So I don't think that it's realistic that another species of humans is going to pop up without that problem, basically.
So you think whether or not we're talking about agnosticism, esoteric knowledge, any religion or any spiritualism, you think that without a doubt, another type of human race on this planet would fall fault to the same types of issues?
Yeah, I do. But that's based on science. That's not just a guess, right? That's not just a theory. It is based on science.
And then I'm not quite sure if you explained this already. How do you propose we were to do this?
Say again?
I don't know if you already answered this with the other gentleman. How do you propose we do? One moment.
How do we achieve total extinction? Is that what you're asking? Well, step one is grow the movement. Step two, which we can do at the same time, is to work on solutions and the problem. We already know what the solution is for extinction, right?
I'm right here. Sorry about that.
Yeah, the extinction part is the easy part, actually. Causing animal extinction is extremely easy. We're not even worried about it. We don't think it's even remotely challenging. But what is challenging is for our currently small movement to effectively take over the world, okay? The technical requirements for animal extinction is super easy, barely an inconvenience. But taking over the world is a lot more difficult. That's kind of what our movement plans to do, basically. Unless there's another way to, achieve total animal extinction without controlling the world, which seems very unlikely.
So it would kind of work on a little bit of my plan that I was thinking about. You would kind of induce it in a manner. Same way that the American government is kind of threatening to put us in a blackout. I suggest that us in America, we put that blackout on ourselves. We start it before they can.
What do you mean by blackout?
Well, what I mean by blackout is it's suspected, and the government has alerted to it multiple times to us, that they are going to take all of our energy, starting with power plants. So the grids would get shut down, and then they would turn off our water. And then in a moment of 4 days, we would be theoretically cooked. So the power grid, I'm assuming that they would just shut that down physically, and then for everything else, they would just destroy it. Now, me personally, I feel like if that is the end goal for them, then we should just plummet ourselves into that dark age ourselves, because there's no way that I'm going to sit here and let them do that to us and then not intervene.
I mean, I don't think that sounds realistic that that's going to happen.
I know it sounds hyper unrealistic, but on the off chance that it is, because, what would they ever tell us that could or couldn't be a lie or a truth? So
I don't know. It feels like a bit of a flying spaghetti monster for me, right? We have to deal with what's practical, what's right in front of us. We can't spend all day worrying about hypotheticals.
well, then again, our government is in a war right now, a war that none of us are even half of us aren't even aware of. It's ridiculous. It's really scary. And then we never truly know what, if even America or Iran or anything can do that'll affect us secondhand, that we have absolutely no control over. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah, we're in the hands of bad people, basically.
we're in the hands of horrible.
Whether it's the leaders or just the population, they're either bad people or not motivated enough to be good people. However you want to look at it, the world is screwed, right? It's run by dictators. It's full of war, racism, discrimination. I mean, yeah, all of the bad things in the world are what we want to stop and put an end to. Extinction is about, just working towards the ultimate good, a suffering-free world. There's nothing else worth fighting for.
Nothing, absolutely nothing.
For me, I would say that
I
there's
feel like
only
we're
two.
practicing a little bit of absurdism, just a little bit.
So, for extinctionists, we would say that it's unacceptable to have anything less than a 100% safety standard for life, right?
I agree.
In comparison to that high standard, we are effectively in hell, and every life form being born here is spawning into hell, right? So we want to protect life from being sent to hell. That's what extinction's about. Yeah, what else is worth fighting for other than the end of torture and suffering? Now, you could say, in my opinion, you could say, well, what about heaven? We could try to create heaven. But as I keep saying, that we're in a position where that's a very impractical goal to pursue, right?
Again, how would you execute this? Aside from animal euthanasia, you told me the plans as of animal euthanasia. Would you gather together scientists to make a bioweapon, or are you thinking about having us expand nuclear warfare faster? You think we should just, heaven skate ourselves? What are you thinking?
I mean, that sounds like accelerationism. But, we actually want a strong and healthy and powerful humanity. We're against self-harm.
So you
Okay.
just would like to halt the process of reproduction?
No, we support human reproduction. The thing is, it might take hundreds or thousands of years to achieve total animal extinction on Earth. And if humanity goes extinct or stops having kids, then it's going to be completely impossible to do that. And that is unfair to the animals.
So
Why should humans go extinct and leave animals to not go extinct? Animals have worse conditions than us. They have no medicine. They have no safety, no jumpers, no fridges, right? They suffer far more than we do.
I mean this respectfully. I love it when people from the UK say jumpers. It's very interesting. I wish Americans had more interesting words for shirts and pants.
Yeah, fair.
I'm starting to understand a little bit more where you're coming from.
It's about a zero tolerance policy on exploiting victims. It's about, the thing is, everyone against extinction is saying by default that it is acceptable and totally fine to condemn innocent life forms to be tortured to death, right? It's a system of exploitation. No life form deserves to be forced into this world by birth to suffer agonizingly and to then have a cruel death. Just a purely bad life, a terrible life, the worst lives, right? The worst lives that have ever happened on Earth must have been truly, truly shocking. You know, out of the trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of lives over millions of years, you know, the very worst ones must have been ridiculously bad, right? But they're going to keep happening. And in fact, it's possible that the worst life ever lived still hasn't happened yet and is in the future, right? The suffering is so extreme, it's unacceptable, right? So people say, why don't we just reduce suffering instead of ending it? Because it's unfair to the victims. You're still allowing babies to be tortured to death. If you have to ask if that's acceptable, then there's something wrong with you, basically. So extinctionism is about saying no baby deserves to be tortured to death just so that someone else can have fun. Because that is the dynamic that we're working with. We have the lucky ones and the unlucky ones. And the unlucky ones get tortured like absolute crazy and then, you know, eaten alive. In most cases, that's what happens to wild animals. It's a horrible experience. You wouldn't want to experience it. And yet we're happy to condemn them to be tortured and tortured to death as babies, basically. It's a horrible thing, and it's a direct relationship where, yes, our existence depends on the suffering of others. If we have total extinction, then we're giving up shallow pleasures. We're giving up privilege that we don't need, right? But those that are suffering and being tortured need to not be tortured. They need to not be trapped in a life of pure agony and misery. You know, you have life is born with brain damage, mental illness, physical illness, diseases, parasites. You know, for many of these life forms, it's not a quick death. It's a long and brutal life of just pure misery and agony. And, you know, they can't opt out because they're animals, or, you know, maybe it's a human with disabilities and they're not even able to opt out. Now, even having to opt out is cruel, right? If your life gets to the point where it's so bad that you're going to have to commit the ultimate act of self-harm, then it's just a tragedy, right? It's all a tragedy, and it should have never happened. You should have never been forced into it.
Okay.
Rant over. Anyway, I'm going to get going now. So thanks for coming on, though. Check out our website if you want to learn more, proextinction.com. If you want to come and chat to the team, join our Discord. The link is on our website, or you can just Google search Abolish Suffering Discord, and you'll have the entire team, the entire movement to answer your questions if that's what you like. Thank you for following, Lando. I appreciate that. Every follow helps. I'm trying to grow the channel desperately, so appreciate that. I'll see you next time, guys. Thanks.